Hello and welcome back to another episode of Pro Tri News. We got a massive show for you guys today with the culmination of the first ever T100 series. Joined by the usual cast, Pat Lemieux, Talbot Cox, and Mark Matthews. Let's start with Mark, getting ready for a big travel to Dubai.
Yeah, so we go on Tuesday to Dubai, then from Dubai to Australia, then from Australia to New Zealand, and we get home from New Zealand on like the 20th of December.
What's the flight home from New Zealand like? So are you going Taupo, Auckland, Sydney,
So
Perth?
we're driving to Auckland because it's
Yep.
like 3 hours, makes sense. And then it's Auckland to Dubai, which is like 16 and a half hours, 3 or 4 hours in Dubai, and then 7 or 8 hours from Dubai home.
That's not bad at all then.
No, and we've got rather nice tickets on the flight, so it should be all right.
Oh,
It's still a long way, mate. Like,
oh yeah,
let's
but
not
I mean,
sugarcoat that. That's 24 hours in the air.
oh,
That's
Yeah.
rough.
That's
And-
cool. Looking forward to it.
Talbot Cox, how you doing, buddy?
I am at the in-laws' house, and we are at actually probably the biggest terrorist threat placed in America, which is our National Oil Reserve, Cushing, Oklahoma. So if anyone ever blew this place up, our country would crumble. But that's why we're in the middle of the United States, so it's all good. But I'm doing great.
That's super.
I can see
niche.
tanks
All right.
from where I'm sitting in the car right now.
Sorry, they have
Oil-
tanks
oil
protecting
tanks.
it.
Oil tanks.
No, big oil tanks, not
Oh, right. I was
actual
gonna say that
physical,
one.
physical
That's
tanks.
gnarly.
Ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, okay, fair.
Strategic oil reserve for the United States, for those that are curious.
It would be nukes from Iran, Russia, or China. One of the
Right,
three.
let's not get
That's-
into politics on this show, but yeah,
we,
fine.
we made the rule. We weren't talking politics, even after the craziness that happened this week. Pat, are you still in your sling? It looks like you're still in your sling.
I'm officially at my 1 week broken scapula anniversary. So, thrilled to be here today. We had to get the pod out today because last week's numbers, we just were like, we can't be doing these midweek launches. People need this stuff Sunday night, Monday morning. So we have a huge set of races upcoming this weekend, and it was important that we talked about them early and got straight into it.
Not that we care about the numbers.
No. But
The
we're
numbers are significant. The numbers are significant, but it's important that we get it out sooner versus later. So then it can keep all week.
Consistency.
Yeah.
Consistency, yeah.
Just so then that way you, the listener, you're like, oh, Monday Pro Tri News. I got to make sure that I listen to the Monday Pro Tri News episode.
But I will say this: there's some fantastic races coming up, but I think that we can all agree here. This is like when they used to have the All-Star game after the NBA Finals, or the All-Star game after the end. Like we've hit the climax. Kona was the climax.
It does feel like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, like it's just, and you can, we're going to get into it when we talk about the race, right? But it's certainly that way. Like we've gone over the hill on this one, and
Yeah.
and because of the way the season is, right? We're talking
we got to get excited two more times.
It's
One this
November.
week, and then again in 2-3 weeks' time.
for 70.3 Worlds. So we're getting long in the tooth here for sure.
Yeah.
But it's all right because our sponsors love it. And who's our sponsor of the show today, Kyle?
Balancing training, life, and traveling the world for races while staying healthy can be hard, and I always do my best to stay on top of things. Prioritizing sleep, nutrition, and recovery is a must, but sometimes you just get sick. With TeleRx, I know I can get my healthcare needs met easily online and straight to my doorstep when I'm in the US to get me back on track as soon as possible.
As always, TeleRx, home of over 120 prescription medications that you can get both online and delivered directly to your door, available in over 40 states. And if you use code PTN, you get 20% off.
Nice. All right, what happened this last weekend?
Pat, take it away.
We had dueling World Cups this weekend. So there was some last minute changes in the World Cup schedule, but there was a race, a World Cup race in Miyazaki, Japan, and then there was one in Brasilia, Brazil as well. So they were both on November 9th, so that really kind of split it up. So we had a race in Miyazaki that they've used for a very long time. It's an ocean swim. This year it was a sprint distance, so little bit, I don't know, more approachable for the end of the season. And then same thing in Brasilia. That was an Olympic distance last year. That was cut down to a sprint distance this year. So, on the women's race in Brasilia, you had Rosa Maria Tapia Vidal. She won. It looked to be rather easily. You had Sandra Dode, who's been away with injury for a while. She came in second place. And then again, a woman that I don't think has had a World Cup podium since 2019, Tamara Gorman from the USA. She got a bronze in the race. So great to see her back. She was, I think, a two-time junior world champion back in the day. Is that right, Kyle?
Yeah, and then I think Youth Olympic Games.
Oh, yeah, that could be too.
Medalist as well.
Yep. So it was great to see her back up there. On the men's side, it was a home race for Manuel Macias. So he came across the line first. That was a huge win for him. He seemed pumped to win at home. Had Callum McCluskey from Australia in second. And then from Spain, you had Sergio Baxter Cabrera in third. On the men's race in Miyazaki, Japan, you had Maxime Hubert Moosbrugger in first from Spain, Ben Dijkstra from the UK in second, Kenji Neener, home race for him in third. He got a podium. And then on the women's race, you had my wife, Gwen. She got first. Alyssa Koenig, she got second. And Jolien Vermeulen, who won in Tongyang a few weeks ago, was third. So it was a, nice race for my wife that she crashed in T2 and had a come from behind victory. And it was a sprint finish on the blue carpet. So we were watching on Friday night, and it was it made for a much too stressful weekend.
That is not the race. That's not the race you want to watch when your wife's competing. You want just off the front, nice and steady, runs it home.
Yeah, and I thought that's what we were going to get, right? When they came into T2, and then it's amazing that I love that all of these World Cups are covered. It's all free on YouTube. You can go back, rewatch the race. But the cross that we have to bear for this is that the coverage is not amazing, right? And so the camera was off in T2, and all of a sudden it came back on, and I saw Gwen picking herself up from the ground, and I was like, and I could see her limp right away on this knee. I was like, oh man, this is kind of weird. Anyway, we're blessed that the coverage was free. It's cool that I watched all 4 races this weekend. I really enjoyed that they're on YouTube. So thanks to World Triathlon for doing that. Talbot.
And for our loyal listeners that are maybe a little bit confused, we are trying to cover all the important races. So we don't cover a lot of World Cups, but in our protocol, we do cover World Cups that Gwen Jorgensen and the Norwegians are at. So just in case you guys got confused on that. So
no favoritism.
Yeah,
no favoritism. No. It has nothing to do with the fact that Gwen has won more short course draft legal races than all U.S. draft legal elites combined. It has nothing to do with that fact. But that's just a simple fact on the cake. So
she is quite good at it, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Maybe she'll get a start though next year. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, after all the ruggamaroo for the last however many years she went through, she's going to finish the year ranked ninth in the world, and they have this the way they do the seeding for the World Series or for the World Series. It's a top 5 Americans, and she's the first American. So that's not something that we strive to, but it's the way that you have to meet the demands of the policy. So.
It's nice of her doing that for the podcast. We do love best ranked American on this podcast. So
yeah, exactly.
At least she's kept that in the family.
So anyway,
was there any entertaining races this weekend, guys?
Entertaining could be subjective, Talbot. There was 2 other middle distance races: Challenge Ironman in China, silver tier race, and 70.3 Melbourne down in Australia, a bronze tier race. Ellie Salthouse won the race in Melbourne, and a first-year professional athlete, Jared Osborne, won the men's race down in Melbourne. On the Challenge Ironman side, I believe this is the last race of the Challenge series, and they pump out a pretty significant bonus for both the winner of this series. So this was, I believe, the last race of that. On the women's side, you had Alana Sivert, who won the race, Els Visser in second, and Aurelia Boulanger in third. And then on the men's side, Onjin.
Yes, go on. So the woman that won that also means she wins the Challenge Series, which is a good payout. She's been racing triathlon for 2.5 years, comes from swimming, and she trains out of China with Brett Sutton. So along with Julie Deron, etc., it seems like Brett Sutton's back to working his magic with female athletes, doing pretty insane things.
That's all you could say. And then Ogden Stonebach and Will Draper and Jack Moody for the podium on the men's side for the challenge race.
Did you see Will Draper pose for a photo with the 35 to 39 age category Chinese athlete that was having shade thrown at him in Kona?
No.
Will Draper put up a social media post with him posing for a photo with him, like just saying my favorite age group triathlete in the 35 to 39 category. It was good. Yeah, it was good.
So he raced the race in
Will Draper, I don't know if the Chinese lad did.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Something interesting on Ellie. This is interesting. I don't know how this is like. I don't know how people tally this and stuff. But I recently looked at her Instagram. 2570.3 wins. I know Lionel Sanders has the most for males, which is 33. But 25 is pretty insane. I don't. Maybe there's another female out there that has a lot more than that. I'm not sure, but 2570.3 wins. That is a lot of freaking wins.
Oh, she's won a lot of races, and without the disrespect, it is sort of shows why you do need like a weighting system to the points for races for rankings, because she seems to be incredibly good at cleaning up at Southern Hemisphere races like that. But then when it comes to 70.3 worlds or T100s, she's left a little bit wanting. But 25 wins is not to be sniffed at, is it?
Yeah,
it's good money as well. It's a lot of money.
All right, guys. So it's the end of the calendar for World Triathlon, and I'm talking World Triathlon on the short course side. And I think we've all been talking about this internally. We've been talking about it on the pod. Who's going to make the jump to long course next year? Who are we going to see that, you know, whether they experiment with it for a year, but it's the end of an Olympic cycle, who's going to, and now there's options, right? So we've never seen it, I don't know, be this fruitful in long course. So you're going to have, especially on the women's side, they're going to be giving out a lot of wild card contracts to secure these athletes. But I mean, let's go through, I guess, who we think is leaving from the draft legal class.
So I'll go with the most. I think the most with the highest potential on the women's side that I think is the most likely to come across. I think Georgia Taylor Brown. Looks like she's doing her first 70.3 in Bahrain. She looks super dialed on the bike out there. She has the bike legs to do it. She has the endurance. Alistair Brownlee once told me when we were talking about short course ladies that would come across, and very few had. He said if anyone will do it and they'll do it really well, it'll be Georgia. She's a real engine. So she's the headline for me, I reckon.
It's so interesting you say that, because it's just not one that I would have picked, right? And it's not just because I don't have that intel on the inside. But obviously we've got, you know, on the men's side, you've got Vincent Louis been very vocal about that. Is there any, the Georgia Taylor Brown one, I think, is like kind of the sleeper one. Is there anybody else that we're sleeping on that we think is really going to make the move over? And like Julie Duran already has, but Taylor Spivey already has, Flora Duffy has. Who else are we? Yeah.
Can we confirm Cassandra Bagran has a Kona slot? Or is it the knee slot?
No, she would have a Kona slot.
Yeah.
I mean,
possibly.
we just make a super controversial graphic that's like Cassandra Bagran confirms and Kona slot.
Not confirms, but you could say qualified. Right?
Qualifies for Kona. I mean, that would be good.
I mean, she's not, but no, she won't, because it'll be under the new 2025 policy, and it doesn't have that in there. So then they can't not honor it at the point she. Let's be honest. I think Cassandra Beaugrand is not going long course.
Yeah.
Would be my take. Why would she?
Cassandra's going to be able to clean house in short course with the estimates of people. She's going to go.
And and obviously we had somebody like a Beth Potter who was, I think, fairly vocal that she was going to go to long course after the Paris quad, but now she's really pulled back on that, and it sounds like she's going to stay in short course for the next quad. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do we have any intel? Do we know anyone that knows Cassandra that could get some intel if she's going to do a long course?
Aren't you two in a group text with somebody that would know something? I mean, it should be.
We'll do some sniffing.
I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say, "Aren't you two in a group text with Cassandra?" I was like, "No way has Cassandra Beaugrand given these two idiots her phone number." I'm just not having it.
I have to say, I think that Hayden Wild's been very coy about what his plans are for next year, but for conversations, I think conversation standpoint, I think that Alex Yee is going to be racing the short course circuit by himself for the next foreseeable future.
I heard rumor that he quite fancies a stab at T100.
There you go.
Okay, I want to put this out there a little bit. The issue with somebody like an Alex Yee putting his hand up and saying, I want to do T100.
No. He said, he meant Hayden Wild.
Hayden Wild.
No. I meant Alex Yee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The issue is that the men's racing for the T100 right now on the soft list that they're making, right? So we think they're going to take the top 10 from the series and roll them in. Then we think they're going to take roughly somewhere between 4 and 6 from the world rankings.
Well, they've said 11 to 16, but they've said it. They've said an analysis of the world rankings and standout performances. Well, now what does that mean? That to me gives them room to just take the next 10 if they wanted as just outright picks.
But I think beyond that, on like the wild card side, they've got a lot of men that are going to fill up their 20. Whether it's an Alex Yee, Leo Berger, these guys that don't have any.
Well, Leo's a definite good name.
Right,
Leo will definitely get along.
Right, but they don't have. But he's got to get a wild card. My point is that I think there's probably close to 10 men that have got their name on a wild card list that the T100 are looking at, and they're
hot shot, right?
Sorry, hot shot. That they're only going to have about 4 or 5 slots for.
I mean,
and I think that you could have it. Let's just throw one out here. Hayden Wild, he's not in the top 10 on the rankings. He's not in the top 10 on the world rankings. So how's he actually going to get in to the series next year? And say, I don't think this is the case, but let's say he gets snubbed, right? Then he'll come back and do short course for another year.
I think they'll choose whoever wins 17.3 worlds, exact same as what they did the last time, and give them a hot shot, similar to what they did with Rico Bogan, right?
Right.
So
an athlete that I know turned down his slot, and Rico Bogan got that one, I believe.
Yeah.
Sure.
But I'm just looking because Hayden.
Sorry, I didn't mean that like in an insulting way. I was just saying, just because you won 70.3 worlds doesn't mean you're getting a hot shot slot.
No, but if you're Hayden Wild, it does. There's no way they're turning down Hayden Wild
or Leo Berger. Like he definitely has a shot to win 70.3 worlds.
Because and if you look at someone like Yuri Kulin, who did perform in Singapore, I mean, he's going to have a good showing this next week if he's going to want a hot shot slot or a contract.
So I think it's going to, getting back to our kind of what we're on here for. I think that there will be some men that really put their hand up. Let's we can go a little bit deeper down the list, right? Like a Jacob Birtwhistle. He's not going to get a T100 contract, but he's going to completely move out of short course, do some Ironman races. This will free up an opportunity for him to move up through that system. However, on the women's side, for instance, I think is there a world where they could fill 6 or 8 hot shots if
easily
you have women from the top 10, both the T100 rankings that don't continue, and then you have some from the series that don't fit. So I think that's where it's a little more interesting to me, where we're going to spend a little bit more time.
People like Claire Michelle, who is now graduated, it seems, from short course and is now going to start doing some 70.3s. People I don't think they're going to. There's 7 Germans ranked in the top 10. Pick a German. There's going to be a German female that comes across.
Agree.
What's interesting to me, and I don't know this, right? But obviously Dylan McNeese, who's running pro athlete affairs at the T100, I'd love to know what his inbox looks like, and if people are making resumes, what they're saying, how they're going to actually get these hot shots, right? Because this goes back to then committing to the series and saying, the series can't demand exclusivity, but my opinion and my thought to the athletes trying to get into the series say that you'll commit to the races and that will be your focus for the year, right? So like
Yeah.
I would say, hey, I won't do super try. I will just do one Ironman 70.3. I want to do 2 short course races. I would be very specific, and I would be loyal to what you write, I think, because I have a feeling that I just think both the men and the women's side to get into the T100 is oversubscribed on the hot shot.
Yeah.
Well, there's interesting stuff. Like, I'll give you 2 names now that won't finish top 10. Lucy Charles Barkley, and she won't be ranked well in PTO rankings either. Chelsea Sodaro. Neither of those 2 athletes are going to be ranked in the top 10. They're going to give one to, maybe they don't give one to Chelsea. They'll give one to Lucy Charles, like, for sure. Like, it gets eaten up pretty swiftly.
If I'm Lucy though, and it's my Kona year, I'm going all in a Kona again. I'm doing Ironman series.
I can't see Lucy doing the Ironman series for the fact it's 3 Ironman races and she never does many. But I could see
Same
her
with
doing
Ann Hogg.
Kona.
Ann Hogg might not get a T100 contract for next year. And she
Or
does.
is she retiring?
Whoa.
Do we see Laura Linderman making the jump?
I mean, just because of who her coach is, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess.
You know,
Who's her
she's
coach?
coach Dan Lorang.
Dan
Yeah.
Lorang.
Right, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, I think we've got to go through that German list a little bit deeper. You could look at somebody, I mean, maybe like a Marlene Gomez-Gogol that could potentially jump up. But I think
Lena
that
Meisner, who's already done some 70.3 racing.
Because what's the harm in jumping up if you get it for 1 year and then going back down for the Olympics? Because it's not like doing an Ironman and going back down.
Long. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think there is a lot. I don't think there is a lot of harm. Who on the men's side are we not thinking about?
How about the fact that you could literally give almost every hot shot and contract to a French athlete?
Yeah.
It's insane.
Pierre
I mean,
Lacour-
like truly, Vince has been very clear. He's done with short course. He's clearly going for a hot shot contract.
Casper Stearns.
Well, I just mean like the French athletes. You got Clement Mignon, Leon Chevalier. I'm not saying they're all going to get it. I'm just saying I'm naming them. Sam Laidlow, Clement Mignon, Leon Chevalier. And can we name the ITU athletes now?
Yeah, Leo Bercher, Pierre Lacour, Vincent Louis, Dorian Connix.
But the same applies for the women and the Brits, right? Because you take Indy Lee, Kat Matthews, Lucy Byram, they're all 3 top 10. You add Lucy Charles, that's 4. They then look at maybe Sophie Caldwell. They then look at Georgia Taylor-Brown, maybe. Does Holly Lawrence come back from pregnancy and having given birth?
And be a better athlete. We saw Holly, I would say, almost at her greatest ever form in Miami at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So what if we did? Okay, because now if I'm the PTO, I think this list that they're actually whiteboarding has got 25 plus for both the men and the women.
It's a shame that there's not 25 athletes that can
No.
races, Pat.
I want to no. I want to do something better. I want the first 2 races to be a race off. So we're going to give them up to maybe 10 hot shots and cut it down to 20 after the first 2.
If I'm honest though,
I love that, by the way.
That's
I'm T100. I love Magnus Ditlev. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think he did a lot for the T100 series. I'm bringing up Magnus, and I'm saying, Magnus, like, we just want to have a clear conversation. If we need to talk to your agent, I don't even know who Magnus's agent is, but they could be like, what's your focus next year? Is it Nice? Is it the Ironman series?
Is it Rob?
Or is it going to be the T100 series? And
it doesn't matter.
I think that they're going to get – yeah, all right.
He's top 10.
Fair.
He's second at the moment, in fact.
But I mean, ask the athletes though, like, what is it going to be the focus? Like, is it going to be the 200 series? Because they're going to want a competitive. I think one thing that it was hard in the female is there was a lot of wild cards given out all year long. I think that will change. I think that the female with the short course all moving up, I think that female's wild card list is going to really narrow it down. You're going to get a lot of contracts that are staying very consistent at the front.
Okay, but it sounds like we are all in alignment here that there are going to be a ton of athletes coming up. What does that leave us with? Is there going to be a void in short course racing next year?
There's going to be 40 people on the start list for Abu Dhabi come February.
Well, I mean, it doesn't help that Abu Dhabi's now, Valentine's Day weekend. I think it's February 13th is Abu Dhabi. So it's like Gwen, for instance, just got home from a race. She takes 2 weeks off, and all of a sudden you look at your watch and you go, shit, I'm only 9 weeks away from the first World Series.
When you started saying that, I wasn't clocking that you meant because it's soon. I thought you meant athletes wouldn't want to race because it's Valentine's Day. I was like, what are you talking about, Pat?
Pat's like, I got something special planned. And Gwen can't go to Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
so,
well, no.
I just bought a pair of edible underwear. Like, she's not going anywhere.
They got chocolate covered strawberries there.
I mean, so that's we know that there's always a little bit of a vacuum in short course racing, especially coming off of an Olympic year.
But we've never seen this much money involved.
That's
this much money involved.
No, but that's the difference. That's why everyone is going to be sniffing out. I mean,
and we did even hear another rumor on the street that what was it?
Well, I mean, we were saving this for hot takes, but I think we've heard the whispers that the T100 has some enhanced stability for future years to come.
In monetary value.
Yeah. And I think, I think that that's backed up in the fact that we saw an 8th race announced already. It wasn't announced by the T100, but it was announced in the Vancouver paper. And I was shocked in the sense that
Vancouver, which Vancouver? Is there a country?
British Columbia.
Okay.
Canada.
Yeah. And I think it's perfect timing. It's too. There's no other.
Is there another?
Sorry. I do want
Birmingham, Alabama.
No. I want to help Talbot out. I want to protect Talbot here a little bit. There's a Vancouver, Washington on the other side of the border of Portland, Oregon.
Oh yeah.
And so this is it's
Check
just
Talbot's knowledge out.
Just to be fair to Talbot here. But I think, to me that signaled a huge momentum shift this week when I saw that race come out this early, because we've seen this before where the T100 will like peacock their, I don't know, the races that they have planned or have in the works. And to see one come out this quickly after they already had announced the schedule, that one was in the works. They just wanted to get the schedule out. So I think,
let's give them credit. We have given them a lot of stick. Like, when's the grand final? Where's the grand final? And also, like, where's your calendar? When's the races? They are not doing that this year.
No, they got 8 ready to go. So yeah. I think, on the whole, if you're an athlete that's coming out of short course and you're moving to long course, and say you don't get the hot shot contract, what are they going to do with Gustav Iden? Okay, he does or doesn't get it. They're going to have to make a decision there. You can go do the Ironman Pro Series, which is an amazing opportunity as well. So it's like,
it's crazy.
It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's what a time to be an athlete moving up to long course.
I think we got corrected for saying this. Someone got all mad and defensive. I would say we will see the largest exit from ITU racing for the next calendar year. I'm sure a lot of those athletes will graduate back, but I would say we will see the largest exit that we've ever seen in the short course racing. So,
but the thing here with that is, whenever these athletes decide to come back after doing like middle distance or short course, Pat, they still have to maintain a certain level of their ranking. Is that correct? Otherwise, they have to go all the way back down and race these World Cups and things like that to get all the way back up for the next Olympics.
They've got to graduate all the way back down.
Talbot, can you said the word graduate. Can you maybe help us out?
Well,
what you were?
I was talking to Morgan Pearson the other day, and he said a very valid fact in our group text. Spelling doesn't matter. Math
He's right.
matters.
He's so right.
Math matters. Spelling doesn't matter. Everyone got what I was saying. So
We did. It's just, if you're listening
the
to
only
podcasts,
time you get a little confused is when I thought that the World Championship was in Birmingham, Alabama. That was the only time
I only
people
said
got
that
confused.
because I saw Pat's face when you said it. No, you're right. Spelling doesn't matter.
So
bring it back.
Look, the difference here, Kyle, is that this goes back to it will only affect the athletes from the nations that have a lot of top performers. So if let's use Claire Michel as an example. The Belgians have, I think, 1 or 2, solid athletes, but they'll get, I think it's 2 or 3 like country spots, so she can hop back in and be ranked 130th. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Where it impacts you is if you're a British female, if you're a French male, if you're a German female, U.S. female. That's when it becomes harder if you slip outside the top 5, and every athlete wants to race. That's
Yeah, like example, like Flora Duffy will slip out of top 5 Bermuda, and it's going to be really hard for her to get back.
It's going to be it's going to be an uphill battle. So I think that's, and then the other thing too is, Kyle, the point's valid though. If you have 52 people doing a race and the limit's 55, you can just then roll on, right?
Yeah,
So in these times when the races aren't fully subscribed, it'll be a different story. And then 2 years before the Olympics, it'll really start to ratchet up when Olympic points turn back on.
Sure.
So
Talbot
I
just
really
said a
did
name,
like
though.
your point though, Pat, about having basically a race off. So like, let's say the first race is 30. First 2 races are 30 athletes, and then you have to be ranked in the top 20 after the first 2 races.
Or they do a cut down after the first one, right? Like, hey, if you're in the back 5, you're out.
Yeah.
And then if you're in the next top, if you're not in the back 3, you're out. I think
But if you were top 10 last year, you're safe through those.
Totally, completely agree. Yep. It's just
Talbot said a name. Morgan Pearson. Isn't he racing India Wells?
Yeah, correct.
He's on a time trial bike. He's racing India Wells. That to me says
He's been asking me for some advice. I told him as long as he can hold his bike wattage between, he asked what the top guys ride at, and I told him between 220 and 260. So as long as he can hold that on the bike.
Zone 2, baby. Zone 2.
Zone 2.
It opens up a whole new world of excuses for him. Like going along, there's way more options.
There's just way more time, right? I'm going to use him as an example. I would hope that Morgan Pearson stays in short course. I think he's got unfinished business.
Agreed.
I hope he stays, but I think I don't know. I would love
the newly branded U.S. triathlon team. I don't know if they really care if what Morgan does. As you can tell, they're no longer United States High Performance. They're just U.S. triathlon team. So seems like they've dropped the high performance out of their name. So
we'll save
a lot of soul searching to do.
We're gonna save that for another topic of the week. My hope is that the T100 invites us in via Zoom to go through this huge list of names that they have, and I think we could talk it through them with them for the hot shot spots. It would be an absolute blast.
That would be fun, wouldn't it? Even just to be a fly on the wall.
Oh, I would kill for that.
The media is in charge.
Before we move on to the race of the week, will we see an athlete? Is there a possibility, one, that the T100 and World Triathlon WTS coexist next year on the same weekend? And is it possible an athlete could race both races?
No and no.
I mean, the only person would be KB, but he's not doing it right. I mean,
no. What about Taylor?
Would she do? I mean, would do it.
Do
Down the ranks too sensible.
Yeah, that's true. She
Down
might
the ranks too sensible. But KB, I could see that boy.
Kyle, you said that's confirmed. There's no WTS race next year with the T100.
No.
No, this is not confirmed because
I'm not going to incriminate myself, but I don't believe that there will be a branded WTCS race on the same weekend.
No, but Sam kind of let it slip when we had him on, when Kyle interviewed him, that they were looking at some open weekends. And if you look at when World Triathlon came out with their short course schedule, they had some open weekends. I still think they use an event like Singapore. I still think they're trying to get Singapore to become a World Series race because that's a multi-sport festival weekend. There's a huge gap in the schedule. They've already got the event and the area closed down. I think World Triathlon's lobbying like hell to get a short course race there that weekend.
What Sam said and what I've inferred from Sam is that there's going to be a T100 race and a short course race coinciding. While whether that is maybe a T100 and a Super Tri race, that would be interesting. A T100 and maybe a Bundesliga race. A T100 and maybe a French Grand Prix race. Kind of the opportunities are a little bit endless. I don't know per se if it's going to end up being some sort of WTCS T100 event.
I guarantee you it won't be T100 and Super Tri though.
No,
They
they were
will
at each
all be
other's
working together.
They're like, we got a few things we got to correct in Malibu first before we go
Yeah.
back to that. So, okay. Well, guys, I think what we figured out here is, Mark, I wish I was going to be in Dubai with you because that Monday morning meeting, there's going to be a lot to cover after the
It'll be
weekend.
athletes closed room, but I'm sure we'll hear all the gossip straight away afterwards.
I'll give you a mic, and if you put it in Dylan McNeese's bag, I think it has an 8-hour battery life. I doubt he's
Perfect.
listening to this.
We already
Just
bought
put
one
it
for
in his
Mike.
bag.
Already got it. So
Okay,
Yeah,
good,
I've got
good.
that, yeah.
Speaking of Dubai, though,
So the number one gap is education. So really educating the masses on how to fuel for performance. This is a performance line. The issue that we were running into and why we said let's create our own is because not too many products out there where it has everything we specifically want for an athlete to take. We know that works for athletes just based on the science that is out there. So the fact that we can combine all the knowledge that we've taken from listening to the sports scientists out there and the latest research, and we're up to date with that, I feel like we're in the forefront of nutrition for our athletes and for those around.
I mean, we have a stacked field. I mean, this would be outside of Kona and Nice, the greatest race. Well, so it's hard with the Olympics. It's just been such an incredible year, but it's going to be an incredible race. Who do we got?
I think, Mark, can you talk us through the course a little bit? Because there was a few things that we knew going into this race that have changed. So originally this race was going to be done in a gigantic swimming pool for the swim. That's now moved to the ocean.
It's now an ocean swim, yeah.
Yeah, we did not know about the bike course. We saw the bike course. We'll talk about that. I think it's got in total like 200 or 300 turns. I mean, it's insanely technical.
Yeah, it's basically 10K. So the swim is like you say, sea swim. It's a split transition, and then it's to like a tracky. I think it's a horse racing stadium as well, something like that. And it's like a 10K ride over, pancake flat highway sort of ride, and then it's I think 7 loops where they have like 1, 2, 3, like 9 90-degree or more turns per loop, but like at least 2 of those are dead turns, like is in you come on a slip road, but instead of joining the highway or motorway, you turn straight back around the slip road corner. There's 2 of those. There's a couple of roundabouts, and yeah, it is much more technical than you would think. It's still not properly hard. It's not. I think on the ground it might feel a bit better, especially if they have quite a lot of the road. But yeah, and it's still forecast to be extremely humid, extremely hot.
Yeah, so I talked to Aaron Royal, who's been there for a week already, and I said, how is it with the temp? And he goes, look, I've been to Abu Dhabi a bunch of times in February and March, but he's like, it is insanely humid here right now. He goes, it's just much, much more humid than I anticipated. So I think we'll get into it when we start talking about the race, but the heat's going to play a factor here as well because there's not very many trees in Dubai. There's not going to be a lot of shade.
No.
And
There's
hold on a second
absolutely
here,
no.
guys. I'm looking at this. The course map on the T100 website. Is it all this green? Is the bike course?
If the lines are like this, that's a bike course.
I am about confused as they come right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull up. You basically join a circuit and then you do 7 laps, I think it is, of this wiggly circuit.
Cool.
But the 10K straight out of town has enough time to split people up a bit. And then bike handling skills will definitely play an effect. I think it will mainly play an effect if you've got someone a bit tired and hanging on to the paceline. If you're accelerating hard out the corners at the front and they're hanging on the back, that's when it can become detrimental. It's a bit different we hate dead turns in other forms of racing because it doesn't split the group up. It allows the whole group to bunch up. But if you have drafting rules in effect, like they shouldn't bunch up as much. So then, I mean, I actually think they should have. You are not allowed to go into the draft zone on corners unless you then overtake on a course like this because it's designed. Because otherwise, all you do if you're an athlete in front is you run in later into the back wheel, and then you just ease the gap out and have a big rest.
Yep.
So I really hope they actually pop penalties in corners here.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment as well. Look, where do we even start with this race? Because I think there's the series that we can talk about. There's the individual races that we can talk about. and then there's ultimately the implications of everybody. There's a bunch of people that are racing to ensure they have a top 10 for placement in the series next year. So there's many stories to be told this weekend. Where do we want to start?
Well, let's start with the standings, shall we?
Yeah.
It seems the most logical place, the overall. So in a commanding, so on the men's side starting, Martin Van Riel has a pretty commanding lead. The way the points work is Martin Van Riel, if he finishes anywhere on the podium, he's going to win, essentially. Magnus Ditlev to overhaul him and Kyle Smith can both overhaul him, but they effectively would need to win and have Martin Van Riel falter a little bit. And to be fair, so could Laidlow and even Sam Long if he had a complete shocker, but it's unlikely. So Van Riel's looking good. The battle for the podium top 3 slots is real tight, basically between Ditlev, Kyle Smith, Sam Laidlow, and Sam Long. The way the points here work is the first place point gets a good whack. They get a 10-point clear bonus. And I just need to pull it up because I'm hoping that's correct, or someone can correct me if they've got it in front of them. And then after that, it starts to run down in 5-point gaps for a while, and then it drops to smaller gaps. So they're all close enough, that next 3, that 79 go down to 74, right? So that's a 5-point spread between 2nd and 5th. If they finish on equal points, whoever wins the race in Dubai between the 2 people on equal points will take the position ahead. So there's a lot of money to play for there. Like the difference in prize money between 2nd and 5th, Kyle, I'm sure, has now got it up in front of him somehow, is quite a lot of money.
2nd through 5th is a difference of $8,000. So, or sorry, not
no, that's on the prize money in the race.
It's nearly $100,000, $95,000.
I mean, and it could be between 1 point.
And looking at the rankings too, I bet a lot of these guys are happy one athlete is not here. And it is unfortunate he's not Yelagines, who had a masterclass of a race in Vegas. And if you're someone like Sam Laidlow or Magnus, you're really happy because that's one more guy that's not beating you off the podium.
Yeah, absolutely.
But additionally, I could see someone like Magnus not having a good race. I could see someone like Sam Laidlow having a good race. Sam Laidlow did not go to the well in Kona. I think that Sam Laidlow just overbiked and just paid for it a bit too much. I think he's a lot fresher than what a lot of people are probably going to give him credit for. So I think Sam Laidlow could play a factor in the overall series standings. But it's hard to see Martin Van Riel doesn't win the series.
Agree.
Yeah.
But then should we talk about the fight for the top 10, because that gets interesting as well for these guaranteed contracts.
Yep.
It basically makes this race the decider across the men and the women for everything outside of the first place, because the difference in points between, let's say, 13th for Daniel Bakkegaard, he's actually 48 points, to 10th for Rico Bogan is 57 points. Like, it's not a big swing, 9 points. I think the real fight, though, is going to come between Alistair Brownlee, Freddie Funk in 11th, 12th, Rico Bogan, and Matthias Margier. One of the others has to slip quite a long way down because, as we said, the way the points start to fan out, the difference in 8th and 9th place points is actually only 3 points. So if you're assuming these guys in 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th aren't going to win come 2nd, 3rd, their point shifts are only going to be 2 or 3 points if they're next to each other in terms of athletes.
And then the other one, Mark, is to mention is 8th place, Mika Newt, who's a wild card. He's not racing in Dubai. So he's also kind of on edge. He's only 9 points ahead.
Well, he'll lose out.
Yeah.
But I mean, Mika Newt's not going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Because these guys only have to score, 10th place is 16 points, 14th place, right, is 10 points, and Mika Newt's on 63 points. So someone like...
He could get pipped.
He could get pipped.
Here's a question for you then. If you're Yelagines, do you book a ticket to Dubai and you're ready to race and you're standing on the start line? Because where he could finish this race, he could move into the top 10. At where he could finish this race, he would move into the top 10.
He would need.
I don't think he won't. He won't, because Matthias Margier, Rico Bogan, that will all score something here.
Oh,
He could move into
he
the
got
top 10.
how many points is it for the win?
35.
Oh,
yeah.
he
No,
would
no.
move. He would easily move into the top 10.
Well, okay, so he gets 35. If he won it, yeah, okay. So
55.
50, 60,
I think
70,
he would easily be on
85.
the podium.
80 points.
So
85.
why I say that is he's guaranteed a contract next year if he could start, assuming
And
he
win.
does good and win.
And yeah.
So I think he's the biggest loser here because
Will we see for the guys that are in this on the bubble, right, for 10th? Will we see a weird thing happen where that group races a little bit more conservatively to try and protect their spot, effectively making the race for the top 3 easier? So like you're going to have it's handing it over a little bit more to Laidlow, Martin Van Riel, Ditlev, etc., because those guys are going to pull it back and be like, look, I'm racing more defensively here to ensure that I'm in the top 10 versus like how we saw Alistair Brownlee typically race where he's just off the front.
It's hard. That example is a terrible one, Pat. You're asking me if I think Alistair Brownlee will race conservatively.
Well,
Of
No,
course he's
Alistair Brownlee's going to win the race.
I don't think so.
No,
I think
he
they're all
won't race
racing for their
conservatively.
lives.
The only thing worth mentioning is obviously Daniel Baekkegard. Of these 5 athletes that we're talking about here, Daniel Baekkegard is the only one that raced Kona. So that is definitely something of prominence and worth mentioning. Fred Funk just got married this weekend, so racing next weekend after getting married.
I hear it wasn't a very boozy affair, so I think he'll be all right.
And Daniel hung out, spent a majority of his day in the penalty tent in Kona. So I don't.
He's got a lot of work to do, Daniel. He has to overhaul a 9-point deficit on Rico Bogan, which is.
But I think what I'm saying is, I bet Daniel will be a lot more fresh for Dubai.
Yeah, and especially because he podiumed right in London. So
yeah,
I mean he's definitely.
I think he could have a fantastic race, and he's going to be mad too.
Yeah,
in Hungary,
100%. So
anyway, there's all to play for in the men's. Should we move on to the women's?
Yep.
Now, I think Taylor Knibb has this completely sewn up. She's on 105 points with Ashley Gentle trailing her by 13 points. So that's more than a place difference if it was first and second. And after that, Ashley would need to beat Taylor by 2 or 3 places in this race. Now, do I think Taylor will win? Not necessarily, but I don't think if Taylor doesn't win, I don't think it'll be Ashley. I think it'll be Julie Duron. So for me, I think Taylor's looking like an absolute shoe-in favourite for the win. After that, I think Ashley's totally safe in second place as well. She's 92 versus Indy Lee's 74. At that point, it gets really interesting because Indy Lee could have a great day or she could easily finish 6th, something like that. In which case, Julie Duron, with a score less than the others, can fly up the rankings if she wins or comes second, or third even. Then after that, there's a real battle in the middle ground between Imogen, Laura Phillip, Kat, Lucy Byram, Paula Finley. They are all spread by 6 points from 4th to 8th at the moment. Yeah.
Here's what I'm gonna say might spoil the party for. I'd say the big maybe the 3 standout favorites that everyone has to win are like Taylor, Ashley Gentle, and Julie Duron. But I haven't seen a points calculation done. What if Flora Duffy wins the race? And then where could that shift things up? Because she would effectively be taking a ton of points off the top. And then
she would storm onto 100 points. It would put her right towards the top of the standings. But then what happens really if she takes the win?
It just
numbs it. She bumps all the likes of Imogen, Laura, Kat down, but she will not. It would almost make it easier for Taylor to hold her
to protect it
because she loses that 10-point sway, which is the winning margin.
Yep. So I think that's okay.
Do you see Flora Duffy winning this?
I think this is a course that's got Flora's name on it, in the sense that I thought she looked really good in Vegas, and I think that this is a very dynamic course. So I think that the couple big surprises here are, technically speaking, as far as like how you ride your bike, I think Kat has a lot of possibility to do really well here. And then I think all of a sudden Flora Duffy does a lot better on this than if it was just a straight like Dubai style drag race.
Yeah, I'll say Kat's had a cold for a week and has done no heat prep because of it. So I'm not going to be singing, not going to throw that in. I know what you mean technicality, though. I know what you mean.
It just changes the dynamic of this race. So like when we all thought,
I think it really affects Taylor and really advantages Julie DeRon.
Guys, real quick. I know we keep talking, and maybe I was wrong, but I've heard some numbers. I just want to clarify. This is not a 35-point win race.
It's 55.
So if
45.
if an athlete has like a mechanical, God forbid, like a Taylor nib, she could easily lose the grand final.
Oh, of course. If Taylor doesn't finish, she can plummet. Yeah, absolutely. But it all comes. What I mean is like mechanicals aside, there's no one safe. Taylor Nib will stay in the top 10 if she doesn't finish, which is obviously a good thing because that could be a nightmare.
I mean, this is like the Ironman slogan: every second counts. It literally does in this race.
Yeah, and I think the women's is even worse for the top 10 than the men's.
Yeah,
the women's shade. Let me just whack it up. Loading. It is down in so 8th place is 60 points. Oh, not really. So Lucy Charles will not race, so she will drop out of the top 10 because Flora Duffy's on 55, then Taylor Spivey on 45. They're 11th and 12th. Julie DeRon will jump up the ranking, but it doesn't push it out. So, I mean, Flora's got to score 10 more points than Paula Finley. No, Flora will move into it, because Lucy Charles will move out. So let's say Taylor Spivey next. She has to score 15 more points than Paula Finley or 10 points more than Flora Duffy. Which, when you get slightly lower down, if you're saying Taylor's not going to be a top 3, even a top 5 maybe, Taylor Spivey I'm talking about, it's like 3-4 point gaps, so it's a big ask for her.
I think someone like Paula's going to have a great race here too. She's already showed that she's on form. So
yeah, I agree.
So it's hard. It's harder to try to predict the women's because literally just anything could happen, and you don't really know everyone's form.
Except Taylor Nib will go off the front of the bike at the start on the first 10K. But does she not build as big a gap as normal because of the technicality, leaving Julie DeRon finally in running shot of her? Mm-hmm. And then if it's actually quite a big gap in running shot, is she also vulnerable to Ashley Gentle, to a couple of other super runners? Though Taylor's been running bloody well.
Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen Ashley since Ibiza, which did not have the race that she wanted to.
Well, she won Noosa, mate.
So I think what we're hoping, our plea to the T100 here is have the graphics and the math ready so that on the broadcast we can see who's in the top 10, because there is a lot at stake here this weekend for it, right?
So much more so because of this 10 auto contracts. It's not the difference between 20 grand or whatever the prize money difference is. It's the difference between 150 grand. There's almost more money on the line, gap between 10th and 11th potentially than there is between 2nd and 3rd.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, and so and then just for our listeners so they can comprehend, the top 10 from the series get a auto contract. They don't have to take it, but they get an auto contract for the 2025 T100 series.
Correct.
Mark, have they been given a timeline of when they have to give guidance on if they're saying yes or no to it? I think the T100 is going to give them like a fair bit of time, like a week or two.
There's pencils with the contracts in the room. And they tell you about them, and then you're not allowed to leave the room.
The athletes are like, "Excuse me, what's name, image, and likeness mean? What? I don't know what that means." They're like, "Don't worry about it."
What they do is
start closing.
They go to the award ceremony and they say, "Let me see your credit card, $1,000, or you lose your contract right now."
Yeah.
All of our
and then they
listeners
start shouting.
Yeah.
Anyone want to go to the T100
contract for next year? Anyone want to?
Guys, let's run through some podium picks.
Do we get a bonus pick too, or no?
No,
you're always
bonus picks. I'll go first on the men's side. I'm gonna say Sam Laidlow, Martin Van Riel. I'll close with Magnus Ditlev.
That's your 1, 2, 3 in order?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Wow.
On the women's side, let's do all the men and then we'll do all the women.
Okay. Pat, this is good. Mark, you want to go? Or you want Talbot to go?
I'm going Van Riel. He only got done by Yelagings. And he's put Laidlow in a box in the run in Ibiza. Will Laidlaw ride off the front? Maybe. Yeah, I mean, if he rides like Kona, he probably only needs to push Kona power to ride off the front. So Martin Van Riel, Sam Laidlaw, Kyle Smith.
I think this race will behave a little bit different than Vegas because I think that we will have a few harder, some stronger bike power at the front, which even if Yelagines was in this race, I think would be at his disadvantage because I think that gap would open a bit with the Magnus Ditlev and Sam Laidlaw such. I see Martin Van Riel winning it, Sam Laidlaw second, and then third. Let's go.
Here he comes. This is going to be niche. I can feel it. I can
Daniel
feel this is gonna
Backegard.
be- Oh,
Jeez.
Gosh.
No,
That's all right. That's fair. That's fair.
Everyone gets a pick.
Here we go. I think that this race is going to play out similar to how.
I forgot Kyle Smith's in the race. Kyle Smith.
That's the same podium as me. You've got to stick with Backegard.
All right, I'll take Backegard.
I think this race is going to play out similar to how Ibiza played out. I am going to go with Martin Van Riel for the win. Sam Laidlaw second. I think Magnus is going to have a difficult time with the amount of turns on this course to really pull a lot of time back. However, I do think that
Kyle, what's your podium? You don't need to justify it. What's your podium?
Just
Martin Van
Trevor's
Riel-
not racing. Pick someone.
Martin Van Riel, Sam Laidlaw, Jason West.
All right.
You what?
Jason West. He proved he was on good form in Vegas. I think
He did. He was very good.
He's
there.
coming
That's-
back around. I think he's coming back around.
Kyle's still dining out on his Patrick Langer selection, isn't he?
I got Taylor Knibb. I got Julia Duran. And then I'm going to go, let's just say, who did I Ashley Gentle.
Okay.
I'm going Julie Duran. I'm going Julie Duran, Taylor Knibb, Flora Duffy.
I'm gonna go.
I'll caveat that I did not think I would be picking Flora Duffy for a podium after her Olympic. If you'd shown me her straight after the Olympics, I did not think we'd be talking about her on the podium come the grand final. But she is getting good at this.
I'm gonna go a little bit different here. I'm gonna go Julie Duran, Taylor Knibb, Kat Matthews.
Can I change mine now?
Yeah. Sure.
I'm just kidding.
Kat,
You usually know your athlete's form. That's why I said that.
Yeah, Kat. No, I think what's interesting here is Kat and Taylor each have something else to play for later on, a few weeks later. Julie, to my knowledge, doesn't. They're not.
No, Julie's doing 70.3 wilds, I think.
Jeez, is she?
Well, she's certainly qualified. She's qualified twice this year.
Shit. Okay, I don't know. I think that Kat's going to make this back in the turns and then run really well in the heat, just against what everybody else thinks. So that's what I'm going to say.
What is the weather? Is it going to be really hot?
Yeah,
He's already talked about how humid it was.
It's going to be cooling down a bit come next weekend, but I still think we're going to see like 30 degrees
the T100.
80.
But what will always happen is the T100 will always schedule the races at the peak heat of the day. So these
1 o'clock.
These races start at 1 o'clock.
I've got my sea swim thermometer with me, and I've got my wet gold globe temperature. I'll happily settle with the standings where they are.
They're like,
right
this
now.
is like T100's back. They're like, when is the hottest point of the day? All right, let's start the woman there. Then when it cools down, we'll start the men.
Yeah. So but to be fair, this race is Saturday, Sunday. So
Same times. Okay, I'm gonna go for the win. Flora Duffy, second place, Ashley Gentle, and third place, Taylor Knibb.
Fair enough. Right, Talbot's got to go, but he's desperate for some hot takes.
Okay,
Let's hit
Talbot,
some.
lead us out.
8 PTO races next year.
I think they still got 2 more that they're probably going to announce. But okay, go ahead.
2 more than that. So you're saying there's going to be 10.
I think there's going to be 10.
I mean, how can you actually
Actually
do the
fun,
Ironman
that.
series next year if you're doing
You don't
the-
do both anymore.
You can't
Yeah.
do both.
Well, you
anymore.
can. I mean, Kat's going to finish top 5 or 6 in T100, possibly with a bit of luck win the Ironman series. But what I think it showed, Laura maybe showed, is if you want to win the big one.
Is that Kat throwing something at you,
Something
saying
just-
she's going to do
something just
both?
crashed around in my house. Wow. I'll go find out in a second. Yeah, I think it's very hard to do both. I don't think you can with 10 races. I'm going to go and investigate if I'm being burgled.
Burgled. Crazy.
Well, so you think that it's going to stay at that, Talbot, or what do you think?
I mean, if Kyle's saying 10, I mean, it's hard to know because Kyle told us in our group text that he used to have a mole in T100 and he said they were bankrupt and they were done for years and all that. So now he's saying there's 10. He might have another mole. I don't know.
Look, Sam's been public that they were going to add a few more. I want to toss a hot take out there based on last week's topic of the week with the 20-meter draft roll.
Yeah.
I had made a comment that they don't enforce penalties in the back of the field in the age group. Do we care to guess how many age group penalties there were in Kona a few weeks ago?
Less than 100.
More.
Less than 105.
More.
200.
280.
Wow. So 10% of the field.
Yeah. It's greater than, I mean, I think were there 2,800 racing or were there 2,400 racing?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, so
I imagine all the Chinese athletes got 3 or 4 each though.
so
If you're confused
That's a
by the
joke.
joke,
It's
it's
a
a
joke.
reference to last week.
last week's
That's
pot.
amazing.
So they did hand out a fair few penalties. So in this pursuit, in this quest for 20 meters to happen for the pro racing, that is just something that we do want to acknowledge that they were handing out, and I will stand corrected that, hey, look, I thought if you would have asked me before, I'd say they were 10 penalties, right? So when I heard that there were 280, you needed to take my jaw off the floor. So
Let's get that same team over to Ironman Texas next year, and then you're on to a good thing.
All right. Next hot take. No more jewelry in World Tri races. The hard thing that I have with this rule is it is going to confuse the pro elite field even more. There's so much intermingling and dating amongst the athletes right now that you start removing wedding bands and stuff, it is going to get even more confusing. I disagree with it.
Oh, geez.
I mean, guys, what are they going to do? I could name some athletes, but I'm not looking for some lawsuits.
This sounds like Formula One all over again. The FIA is already in trouble with the drivers for removing everyone's jewelry. So, Pat,
No, it's only because Hamilton was wearing so much jewelry. I mean, if this including like a simple gold wedding band.
Yeah. No jewelry when you race. So
Not even the rubber one.
Here's
The rubber one.
Here's what's disappointing to me. I just think that's like, guys, we've talked about this in the past. This is what the rule we're going to decide to change. I want to give them a little bit of credit. The new start procedure has worked flawlessly. I've watched as many starts as I could since they've done the new procedure. That's worked flawlessly. This one, I'm like, this is one where I just roll my eyes. I'm like,
does that include a below the kit inspection? There are a couple of athletes that would have to be, there is below kit jewelry going on.
Here's a question. If you were a medalist athlete, are you allowed to wear your medal while racing in the Olympics? Some athletes still wear their medals.
Can't do it.
That's nuts. I'm surprised that this is the hill that they're deciding to die on. Is there any other crazy rules that are be coming out for 2025, Pat?
I don't know any. I think they should. They probably got to make sure that their upper echelon of their employment staff aren't dating any of the athletes. That's probably a big one they got to check with.
What if an athlete has?
Did you hear that? Well, now we are definitely not going to start naming names on that one. But slide into my DMs if you want to know who we're talking about.
What if an athlete has nipple rings? Because I know, but I'm saying I had to make it very clear. What about Christian Blumenfeld? We were talking about it. He was thinking about getting some nipple rings.
No, bars are okay. Rings are bad.
Okay.
Can't do it. Okay, and then I think the other one thing that I would notice is there was I thought the redundancy of motorbikes on courses in Miyazaki this past weekend, given there's a big chunk of the course that was really narrow and had dead turns on it. And if you go and look at the placement of the motorbikes, it wasn't great. So I think just always a checkup on the motorcycle drivers. And Talbot's talked about this with an etiquette as far as like media motos. But I think probably revisiting that, that's really, really important for all of it.
I mean, I think in those style of racing, when it's laps and it's short course, etc., like if it hasn't got a live stream camera on the back, what's the bike doing? You don't need a referee out on a bike on those races. There's enough corners, there's enough static. You can enforce penalties from the coverage. You don't need course clearing; they're closed. It literally has to be the live coverage. You don't need photographers getting the edgy shot. It's just dangerous.
Yep. And then final one that I had, we touched on this earlier, but the cash infusion that we're hearing that the T100 has, if that's the case, man, they've got a ton of momentum headed their way in a real positive situation. Again, that what we're hearing from the whispers I'm hearing from Ironman on the sponsorship side, this is switching to the other, their competitor, is that it would come of no surprise, but VinFast is done, given that we haven't seen a single vehicle and VinFast doesn't sell any cars. So that sponsorship is going to conclude.
I love that they've honored that contract the whole way. Talking about VinFast cars, and you can't even buy one.
Can't even get one. So that one is done. There's a lot of noise in the bike industry right now because Ironman is trying to have multi-partners throughout the year, because the problem is the person at Ironman that's selling this space is, in my opinion, asking for way too much money, and no bike brand wants to support it, and they won't throttle their expectations to get someone in and fill the space. But
does it make sense to do like a regional type of thing, to where it's like Asia Pacific is like Giant, Europe is Canyon, and then US is either Aventum, Trek?
Look, Kyle, the reality with sponsorship 101 is you have to ask for an amount that you need to fulfill the sponsorship with, or you need to be happy with, or you can take less. And so I think the reality is that they've been asking for 500,000 plus to fill the bike's space, and then bikes are challenging to move around to all these expos, and the reality is nobody's paying it. So you either, Ironman could take a position where they're going to stand bold and say, nope, we're going to hold, that's the value of our property, or you can lower your expectations. The issue is that the person that's doing a lot of the sales, from what I'm hearing, throws his weight around in these conversations and doesn't want to try and meet the expectations of the people that he's trying to get to sponsor. And I think that's the problem, is that it's a negotiation and a conversation. It's not, you need to meet our demands or else, because now the problem is nobody's, let's use Gatorade for an example. Nobody's filled the shoes of Gatorade. That nobody's become the global partner. They had to split that category. So Precision Hydration filled it in Europe. Mortal Hydration filled it in the US, and it's done at a fraction of the price that Gatorade was paying. Mm-hmm. So I just think that there's also, you got to look in the mirror and say, okay, like we do need to have, we need to fill these categories, and do we have to change our expectations of what sponsorship looks like at Ironman? The issue is it doesn't sound like the person that's running sponsorship has the softest of touches when he's doing those negotiations.
Well, I tell you what, I know a lot of Ironman staff listen to this. I hope he doesn't. But sounds very fair. The number we're hearing for PTO, we're talking tens of millions here, and I'm not buying it. And the sources are very good, but that when you start talking the tens of millions, that is a huge percentage of the overall investment thus far. And my question is, how do they get someone to buy into that? Because whose share pot are they diluting for that? Because they diluted the athletes' supposed share ownership from 50% down to a third now, I believe. if you're getting someone buying in for that much money, where is that share percentage coming from? Issuing more, but then it dilutes everyone's, or is it diluting one pot? And one pot basically doesn't have a voice. Yes, the pro athlete board is supposedly the owner of that athlete percentage, but that's interesting if it's that much money. And I just can't believe it. Because they haven't shown a return. I think if you're going to get an investment of tens of millions more now, I would expect it to come when they've shown an ability to return on that investment. I hope they have, but I'll be amazed.
I guess it goes back to what we said before Vegas. I felt a momentum change in Vegas. And this was just a gut feeling. This is not, I certainly didn't think
It's not
was
backed up in viewership. It's not backed up in.
No, I completely agree. I'm just saying I just felt something a little bit different, and maybe it was the tone that Sam had.
Excellent.
So I'm very, excited, and obviously, like I've had some, conversations with Sam, just given that I've got athletes that are in the series, and Sam is, I would say, thinking about the series and how the athletes are integrated into it in a more detailed capacity than I've ever seen him before. And he just seems to have a renewed excitement around the series. And
Wow.
and I'm not giving away too. I mean, he was just as excited when he talked to Kyle, but it's just he maybe knew that this was in the works. I can't speak to how they diluted new shares or how they onboarded this new money or what they're going to do with it. For all we know, Mike came in and just said, hey, look, we had KPIs. You guys met them. I'm back in. Let's go. We don't know where that could be where the money came from. Nothing could have changed.
Well, let's wait and see. I'm sure they'll be announcing it when it's signed on the dotted line.
Like I said, I wish like hell I was in Dubai this week. Golly, I'm super bummed I'm not going to be there.
Crazy.
Agreed.
Any other big hot takes for us for this weekend? No, nothing. Well,
Laura Philipp looked lovely. Laura Philipp looked lovely for her awards ceremony and German national TV.
Yeah.
Her and Patrick Langer scrubbed up very well. Laura scrubbed up better than Patrick, mate. Sorry, I'll say that. No, I got nothing else. Close us out. I think that was a solid rundown of what we got to expect.
If you want more hot takes, more controversy, more triathlon, no other place than Pro Tri News. Thank you for listening, and we will be back after the grand final for the T100 next week. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you soon.